There are over 800 Pokemon in the current year, and I can only bring myself to hate one of them. That Pokemon is one of the most controversial, Jynx. Well, controversial is an understatement. Jynx is infamous for its racist appearance, resembling racist cartoons from the early 20th century. We already know why it's racist, and we will not be going into it because this is a Pokemon redesign video. What we will go into is why Jynx is still a bad design, even if it didn't have this major issue. First of all, Jynx has an unshapely body. With no neck and a fleshy, blobby dress, Jynx suffers from a lack of appealing shape language. Its bra-like structure being right where its neck should be, are a poor attempt at stylizing a human-shaped creature into a monster that's human-like. Other Pokemon like Gardevoir and Florges do a much better job at retaining feminine grace while balancing features that convey their non-human status. Jynx, on the other hand, has the unfortunate combination of ape-length arms ending in bloated people hands. Even its hair is uncomfortably people-like, compared to other Pokemon pair like Hatred, Melota, or even Mega Ampharos, who all have stylized hair that look more appealing than Jynx's cheap wig. And the worst part about Jynx is that none of these features are amounting to any sort of interesting lore. Jynx is an obvious derivative of the word jinx. Jynx has no relation to luck or hexes in its lore, with its psychic typing being the only relation. Okay, that's unfair. Jynx is its English name, but its original name in Japanese is Rugella. Rugella comes from rouge, the French word for red, and a type of red cream or powder used in makeup. Rugella implies some sort of makeup theme, which Jynx doesn't really have. Jynx's actual lore involves much more unpleasant activities. Jynx sways its hips in a manner that is described as seductive. It does have some more interesting traits in that Jynx speaks a language that is similar but incomprehensible to humans. It also sings in a human-like way, making it a popular singer. It even has one Pokédex entry in Pokemon Sword saying that it was a queen of ice at one point. Not that any of these fun facts really help Jynx in its current state, but what it does help with is redesigning Jynx. All in all, Jynx is a very weird Pokemon. It's so ugly and unappealing that all of its more interesting traits were unknown to me before researching this Pokemon. What we do now with this information needs to be figured out before I start the process of making new designs. Yes, you heard that right, designs. This redesign will not just include Jynx, but it will include its pre-evolution Smoochum. And just for fun, I threw in an evolution based on the design trends of the Sinnoh region. I will go into these two later, but for now I will focus only on Jynx. The most important thing to take into account before starting is the inspiration for the design. Jynx's origin is a bit of a debate amongst fans. Some say it's a Viking woman, or an opera singer, maybe even the Valkyrie. I think the most likely inspiration for Jynx is Yamanba Gongoro girls. More specifically, I think Jynx is a Yamauba Gongoro mixture. Yamauba are a type of yokai, a Japanese spirit. Yamauba and Jynx don't have a lot in common other than living in snowy mountains and having long blonde hair. Yamanba Gongoro girls are apparently named after the Yamauba due to their alleged similar appearance. I say alleged because I can't find any historical Japanese images of Yamauba with dark skin, which is supposed to be one of their more iconic features. Yamanba girls also have long blonde hair and vibrant makeup. Jynx has dark skin, long hair, lives in a snowy area, and has an excessive amount of makeup. With Jynx's many possible inspirations laid out, I decided to go into the design with some core concepts in mind. First, the makeup Gongoro themes have to go. Nothing they bring to design is interesting or compelling. Jynx's new inspiration is a singing mountain woman. Not every Pokemon in Kanto is meant to have an interesting inspiration. Some of them are just fancy animals like Sandslash and Butterfree. Jynx would be a woman who sings in the mountains in the same way that Mr. Mime is just a clown. Before I really get into the redesign, I want to talk about changing its name. Jynx's name makes no sense for both its old and new designs, so picking a new name that represents its new theme better makes sense. Since it's a lady Pokemon that lives in the ice, Lady seems like a fitting name. It's a Generation 1 Pokemon, so a lazier and less creative name seemed fitting. Speaking of Gen 1, I wanted Lady to look like it could exist in the first generation along with other Cantonian Pokemon. Jynx has simple patterns and obvious breasts, similar to Nidoqueen, the only other explicitly female Pokemon in the only generation without gender. Lady has a defined head now, but has a round body, cartoony three-fingered hands, and a doughy face. This helps Lady blend in with other Kanto Pokemon. Kanto has more organic and less shape-based designs. I gave Lady circular shoulders to appear more like fluffy sleeves. I made the decision to give Lady shorter hair to make her shoulders more obvious and clean up her silhouette. Lady's white part of her dress was made to break up her design and make it more visually varied and dynamic. It also kind of resembles an apron. One interesting part I want to touch on is the colors. Gen 1 Pokemon were made as sprites first, so they had the limited color palette of black, white, light gray, and dark gray. This leaves Kanto Pokemon with 2 to 3 colors at the most, as every Pokemon was made as an in-game sprite at first. And these colors follow the pattern of having a darker shade and a lighter shade to represent the dark gray and the light gray. Light Ice has dark blue skin for the darker gray and a light pink dress for the lighter gray. I make the hair white instead of yellow because the Yamauba inspiration was taken out, so I felt that the white fit better as a typical ice color. It also takes out an unnecessary third color. Blue, pink, and white also lend well onto Late Ice's type. Late Ice would still be an ice psychic type, so pink works well for psychic. Blue and white are for ice. I will admit, Late Ice would not wind up on my favorite Pokemon list. First of all, it's not a bug type, so Late Ice is already at a disadvantage. Second of all, it's just not my kind of Pokemon. But my goal with this redesign wasn't to make a Pokemon I like, it was to make a more interesting and appealing version of Jynx. And at the end of the day, Late Ice is certainly better than Jynx, so I know I succeeded. I hope you also appreciate the fake Pokédex entries that I whipped up so that you guys can get a better image of how Late Ice fits into the Pokemon world. While I wasn't particularly inspired by opera inspirations for Late Ice and its visuals, singing is still a compelling element that I could add into the design. Next up is the Smoochum redesign. With the massive overhaul to Jynx's design, Smoochum will also require an overhaul. It's not like we're losing anything of value anyways. While Smoochum was cuter and less unfortunate looking than Jynx, it still suffered from bad lore. Most of its Pokédex entries consist of Smoochum inspecting things with its lips or hating that it gets his face dirty. Nothing particularly interesting or inspiring. To start, Smoochum will be renamed to Baby Ice, a combination of baby and ice. Pokemon with cross-generation evolution lines, where manga and evolution or pre-evolution in a different set of games, tend to have similarly structured names to maintain consistency. Jynx breaks this rule oddly enough. It doesn't really bother me, but I still feel like Baby Ice is a really cute name. Baby Ice would be a mountain child, with no new weird behaviors related to lip inspections. Originally, Baby Ice was just going to be a pink and blue no-lip version of Smoochum. But with Late Ice being so different than Jynx, I felt like I had to expand on Baby Ice to maintain visual similarities. Plus, I wasn't a fan of how different Smoochum and Jynx looked. Baby Ice was given a dress more similar to little girls than the diaper pattern that Smoochum had. I also turned the bob that Smoochum had into a cute little ponytail, as Late Ice already had a bob cut. Other than that, the colors are really the only major difference, in the sense that Baby Ice is a pastel version of Late Ice. Not much else to talk about as Baby Ice is a simple design. While Smoochum and Baby Ice are both simple in nature, they are able to look very different due to the small changes between the original and the redesign. While Jynx only has 2 Pokemon in its original evolution line, I figured it'd be fun to come up with a final evolution for Jynx. My original idea was to make a final evolution for Jynx in the spirit of Magmortar and Electivire. For a while, Pokemon fans theorized that Jynx was in a trio with Magmar and Electabuzz. This was due to the fact that they were all based on Asian mythological creatures and had re-evolutions in Generation 2. I actually had a version of Late Ice where it was more beast-like, with big old feet and a tail. But I sat on the design, and realized that I didn't want to force this line to fit into an imaginary trio and just let it be its own line. I still wanted to design a Gen evolution though, due to the Sinnoh remakes that came out recently. Before starting on this design, I consulted my twin, the local connoisseur on Gen 4 Pokemon designs, more specifically on Gen 4 evolutions. Sinnoh has a lot of evolutions that expand on previous Pokemon, like Roserade and Yanmega. This Late Ice evolution would expand on its singing, and would finally bring back the opera singer concept that I talked about earlier in the video. This final evolution would be called Ladyshear, from Lady and Glacier. Originally, Ladyshear would have went in a more creepy mountain woman direction, in a similar fashion to the Yamauba. However, it was pointed out to me that Frostlass is already a spooky lady Pokemon based on a yokai that lives in the Icy Mountains. This opera direction lets both Pokemon be their own unique concepts. One of the most important things to take into account is what exactly makes Kanto designs different from Sinnoh designs. Sure, Sinnoh is known for its more detailed designs compared to Kanto, but what details they do include is important to consider. The most important change is the change in silhouette. Ladyshear was made taller and had its top and bottom segments divided into 2. His dress was given ruffles and a trim. The white portion of his dress was given more form to appear like the middle part of a fancy dress. Ladyshear was given a fluffy collar and sleeves to show not only class and elegance, but to segment the body. Many Sinnomons have structures on their body that help break up form, like Magmortar's bracelets or Luxray's hind fur. While I opted out of designing latest year as a completion to the Magmortar Electivire trio, I still studied their designs through the fact that all these Pokemon would, hypothetically, have different stages added in the same generations. I noticed that Magmortar and Electivire both borrowed elements from their Johto first stages rather than only taking from their second stage Kanto evolutions. Magmortar's black braces are similar to the black color on Magby, while Elekid and Electivire both have a wire and cable theme that is absent in Electabuzz. After observing this, I gave Latest Year a feature that originated in Babe Ice, having her hair in a ponytail. I gave Latest Year long side hair to avoid the ear area, and to show that Latest Year is pulling back a lot of long hair. Talent-wise, Sinnoh evolutions are a bit tricky. A lot of them remain the same like Togekiss and Tangrowth, while some change by adding accent colors like Weavile and Ambipom. They can also shift hues entirely, like Mismagius and Rhyperior. I was most intrigued by the hue shifting, but I felt that a new accent color in the form of yellow would help. The yellow is added in the form of trim on the ruffles and a gem holding the ponytail up. The pink was made more of a red, and the blue skin was made more of a purple-blue in the spirit of mons like Toxicroak and Garchomp. These new colors help bring elegance and class to Latest Year. Well, as new as they can get, this palette is actually the closest to Jynx's original color palette. Speaking of original color palettes, I'm sure that you noticed by now that Babe Ice and Late Ice have Smoochum and Jynx's colors for their shinies. Since Latest Year is a completely new Pokemon, I based its shiny off of Jynx's original shiny palette with strawberry blonde hair and pinker reds and purples. Odd that such an ugly Pokemon got such a pretty shiny. At least we can put it to better use now. And with that, the Jynx redesign line is complete. Not gonna lie, I'm a little sad that these are never going to be real Pokemon who replace what we have now. While I've already said I'm not the biggest Late Ice fan, I actually adore how Latest Year came out. I could imagine it being used in the anime in one of the Dom Focus contesting episodes. It is a performer Pokemon after all. But alas, the only redesigning Pokemon we'll ever do in its regional variants. Maybe I'll reuse these designs for another project, if I can find room for them. But that's all for now, till next time.